In this section, we will talk about how to create a budget. A budget is a plan on how we will spend each dollar we earn over a given period of time. Due to the fact that most of our bills are due monthly, and we most likely get paid at least once each month, we suggest setting up a monthly budget. Over the next few minutes, we will learn what we will need to do to prepare to set up a budget, how to categorize our budget, how to calculate our income and expenses, and the steps necessary to complete the budget process. The first step is to decide how we will do our budget. Will we do it the old-fashioned way by using pen and paper, or will we use a spreadsheet such as Excel or iWorkNumbers? We may also consider using a money management software program such as Microsoft Money or Quicken. Each of these options offers some pros and some cons, but the most important thing for us to choose is the one that best meets our needs. After choosing what method we will use, it's time to collect the documents we will need to do our budget. We will want to gather our paycheck stubs and other documents, such as income statements from rental properties, that will give us an indication of our true income. The next thing we'll want to do is compile all of our bills, credit card statements, and etc. Now that we've decided what method will work best for us and have all of our documents in hand, we want to start to categorize our monthly expenses and income. As mentioned earlier, the best budgets are the ones that we create that will best work for us. With that said, we need to decide how detailed we want to be. Do we envision that our expenses will have just a few general categories, such as housing, food, entertainment, investments, and savings? Or are we going to have lots of subcategories on top of our regular categories? Categorizing our income should be pretty easy for most of us to do, as long as we remember that it's our budget and there's no right or wrong way to organize it, and that we should just choose the method that best works for us. If our income is not accurate, we will not be able to use our budget to the best to meet our goals. With that said, it's important to figure out our monthly income. When it comes to filling in our income portion, it is not only important to be accurate, but also to include all of our income sources. For example, if we neglect to include our year-end bonus or our tax refund into our budget, then we can have large sums of money not accounted for. As we know, dollars that are not accounted for often find themselves to be spent on items that will not help us meet our financial goals. Now it's time to input our expenses into our budget. Since we may have many different expenses, it can be difficult to get them all correct the first time. However, that is not important for us to be overly critical, as we will be updating our budget monthly. But do know that the most successful budgets are the ones that we try to be most accurate, and it will only make our budget stronger the more accurate we are. So while it may feel good to be optimistic about your expenses, it's critical to our success to be very realistic. If reducing our debt and saving for an emergency funds are important to us, don't forget to put that somewhere in our budget. Don't worry right now about how much that is. We will address that later on. Some expenses are considered fixed, such as our car payment, phone bill, and rent. These fixed expenses are easy to keep track of since they're the same each month. On the flip side, we have some expenses that change month to month, such as dining out, entertainment, and stops at the convenience store. These are often referred to as variable expenses because they are not always the same. These expenses can be more difficult to track and will require a little bit more work on our end. There are many theories on how to account for these expenses. A few examples are a system where we take out cash at the beginning of the month and allocate each dollar toward a category. Or we can carry a little notebook with us and write down where each dollar is spent. Some people also choose to use a credit card or debit card for most purchases, so they have an electronic trail. Others choose to take each receipt and place it in a box to track their expenses. Like most choices, there are pros and cons to each, but the most important thing is that we find a system that works best for us. At this point, we have separated our income and expenses into categories and inputted the numbers into our budget. The next step is to subtract our expenses from our income to get our budget to balance. At this point, we may see that our income is less than our expenses, or that we may have some extra money that is not accounted for. If we find that our income is greater than our expenses, add the extra money to the categories may help us meet our goals, such as an emergency fund, debt reduction categories, or investments. If we see that our expenses outweigh our income, it's time to make some changes with our discretionary income. When we're ready to set up a budget that works, there are a few simple steps we should follow. Choose the method that best works for us. Categorize our income and expenses, and find the difference between the two. If we have a surplus of money, Use that to achieve our goals. If we have a shortage, we may want to rethink our spending because it will be almost impossible to reach our financial goals.